So now we're hearing that the woman that accused Kavanaugh, who's Trump's Supreme Court nominee, of sexual misconduct or assault back when they were in high school some 30 years ago, is now saying she will not testify Monday in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and instead she wants a full FBI investigation into the matter before she'll cooperate by talking to the Senate. This reeks of politicization of this incident, and the whole story just keeps getting shadier and shadier as time goes on. So at first, it was very dubious that this woman waited 30 plus years to raise accusations of this, but you still like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it is entirely conceivable that she could have waited until she saw his name in the news as being possible the next Supreme Court justice before she would come forward. But that does lead to some questions why she didn't tell anyone all the way back then. And then there were other things that started to come out, like, for example, her original account of the story in 2012, apparently to her psychologist or psychiatrist, mentioned 4 men being involved, and that switched to 2, which she said was due to a mix-up on the psychiatrist's part, not on her own. And she doesn't remember what year it happened. She doesn't remember how she got to the house that it happened. She doesn't remember how she left the house, all sorts of details like that. And so it's just very difficult to, even if you're giving the benefit of the doubt and she believes this story, there's no telling if her memory is accurate, if it was an actual sexual assault, or if maybe it was just something else that she after all these years has interpreted it differently, or that Kavanaugh was even the person. For the record, Kavanaugh completely denies even being at a party with this woman. And so it looks shady from the get-go. Now, what definitely, again, you hate to just say that someone's lying. I don't know that this woman's lying. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it looks shady because it looks as if the timing of it was used for political purposes. This is definitely the case with Dianne Feinstein. So what this woman originally did was she sent a letter to the Washington Post and then to a representative of hers in California. And then that representative got in touch with Dianne Feinstein, who apparently sat on this story for 6 weeks. This is ridiculous. That if Dianne Feinstein was legitimately concerned about seeking justice for a potential victim, she would have came forth with the story immediately. She didn't have to use the woman's name or anything like that, and she could have questioned Kavanaugh in his hearing. Instead, she waits until the week before he's confirmed. The reason for this is they're hoping to delay the confirmation process until after the election. There's several reasons for doing this. First is they want to get back at the Republicans because they feel like the Republicans screwed them over when Obama nominated a judge named Merrick Garland. I tend to agree that I thought this was a crappy move, and I'm someone who leans more Republican than Democrat. I do think that Obama should have got his choice in judge. However, even if you think that's crappy, it is 10 times more crappier to be using an alleged sexual assault as a reason for delaying this. And the reasons are threefold. One, it's the exact same situation as Garland in that you're trying to shadily delay this until after the election in hopes that the election will swing in your favor, and then you could get a justice more favorable to you, which is bad on both parts. But the additional parts are, second, you're potentially smearing a person who is totally innocent for the rest of his life, making him look bad in front of his family and everything, accusing him of being an attempted rapist, which is a terrible thing to do in the name of politics. And the third thing is you are belittling women that have actually gone through sexual violence and assaults and things of that nature by using this situation as nothing more than a political ploy to get your political whims about. Now, I'm not saying that this is what this woman is doing. Her name's Ford, the woman who's accusing Kavanaugh. But this seems awful dubious, the fact that now Kavanaugh came out and said, sure, I'll testify Monday, anywhere, anytime. This didn't happen. They waited and waited and waited for a response for this woman, and then her lawyer just sent out a letter to CNN apparently saying, well, she won't testify in front of Congress Monday because she wants an entire FBI hearing. Now, this is not the role of the FBI. The FBI has never done things like this. They already did a background check on Kavanaugh. They could have 6 weeks ago, if Feinstein would have came forth with this allegation, they could have asked the FBI to do that then, to go through with it, and then it would all be done by the time of the confirmation hearing. But the fact that Feinstein chose to sit on it proves that it was just a political move. Schumer came out today and basically reiterated the exact same talking points that this woman's lawyer is, that, well, we shouldn't move forward until the FBI does a full investigation. But again, this isn't the type of thing the FBI does. What they're asking is for the FBI to sit down, interview this woman, interview Kavanaugh, interview any other potential witnesses, and then come to a decision which will basically be like, yeah, we interviewed them, here's our findings. And then at that point, the Senate would sit down and interview Kavanaugh and interview this woman and interview all the potential witnesses. So in other words, it's just an added step. They're able to interview. The FBI is never going to, there's a 99% chance the FBI wouldn't come out and say, we find these findings to be that Kavanaugh is unqualified. They'll just say, like, here's what we learned. And then it's up to the Senate to decide whether or not they think Kavanaugh is qualified for the court. So therefore, it's just an extra middleman step. Why have the FBI do it when the Senate's free to ask both Kavanaugh and his accuser Ford all the questions they want? It's because they are attempting to delay. That's what this is all about. It is one of the most disgusting things that you could imagine. And it's not new, by the way. This is something that's occurred. I was just a young boy at the time, but with Clarence Thomas, who at the last minute things were leaked that he apparently made inappropriate sexual comments to a woman, and this was drug out. His name was drug through the mud for the same reason. It is absolutely disgusting to do this. Even if what this woman's saying is true, right? It would be disgusting to politicize it more than that. They should have just came out with the allegations when they heard of it and let the chips fall where they may. Instead, they're using it strategically and politically to try to get the most benefit out of it for their side politically. So it's a very, very terrible thing. Everyone should be appalled by this, by what the Democrats, Schumer and Feinstein, are doing. And again, the fact that this woman now doesn't want to come forward deep down I knew that this was what would happen, that one way or another this woman would say that she didn't want to testify until it's too late. Now, here's a prediction of mine. I hope this doesn't come true, and this is just a gut feeling, but I would not be shocked if the Republicans say, no, we're not going to wait for the FBI. You have your chance to come testify. If you don't want to, then we're going to have a confirmation vote, yes or no. And then once that confirmation vote's announced, the woman then saying, okay, now I will come testify. So can you please push the confirmation back some more? And it's just further proof. Every step along the way has just been drag this out as long as possible. And the Dems saying, please, let's let this occur after the election. That's what we really want. That way we have, one, a better chance of getting someone in there that we would like more if we retake the Senate. And second, then they don't have to have their constituents be in the awkward position of having for these senators to have to vote to confirm or not confirm Kavanaugh, because they're afraid, some of the Democratic senators are afraid, if we vote to confirm this guy, then our voters are going to be really upset and they're not going to come out. Whereas if the confirmation vote is after the election, they think it'll drive up support, where people will say, oh, now Democrat base has to get out there and vote because we now have a chance to stop Kavanaugh. And I'll link the previous video I did, but this is all about, because Democrats have politicized the court. The courts should never have been agents to enact law. They're supposed to just determine whether or not the laws that Congress enact are constitutional. But Democrats have traditionally tried to use the court to enact law and to be basically legislate from the bench. And so they're afraid that if they lose their ability to do that in the court and it becomes a conservative majority and the conservatives would just go back to saying, is this constitutional or not, that they will no longer be able to have their unelected legislative that just creates laws from the bench. And so to them, it's life or death. Which is hyperbolic. I know it sounds hyperbolic, but that's how they're phrasing it. They're saying women will die if Kavanaugh's put up there. No one will be able to have abortions. I've heard people say it'll be like the Handmaid's Tale. Women are going to be second-class citizens. They'll be forced sexual slaves of men. This is the stuff that's coming out of the Democratic Party. That's how hyperbolic they are. And so for them, it's a by any means necessary. It doesn't matter if they're smearing an innocent man. It doesn't matter if they're potentially using a sexual assault victim's suffering as a mere political ploy. All of it is justified because they are stopping an evil man in Trump from putting another evil man in Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. If we don't stop this type of behavior, our political system is going to devolve even further than it already has. Politics will just become a system of who could get the best accuser to come out right at the 11th hour before an election or before an appointment or things of that nature. This is terrible and it needs to stop. I think that this woman should be allowed still to come forth and give her side of the story on Monday or sometime next week if that's what the Senate decides. If she elects not to do so, then I think they should just have have the hearing. No doubt that what will happen will be that the Democrats will say, if this hearing happens without her coming to testify, which she has been invited to do so it would be her choice not to, the Democrats will say, well, then this is our reason for voting no. We can't vote yes on this guy knowing that she didn't have the chance to testify. But she did have the chance to testify. She's turning it down. The other thing is, I'll add here, if this woman does testify, it's a lose-lose for Kavanaugh and the Republicans, because how can let's assume for a second that Kavanaugh's innocent. So this woman's accusing him of basically being an attempted rapist. If someone accused you of that, you would want to defend yourself. You're not going to be necessarily ridiculously rude, but you're going to be pretty upset at this damning allegation that has the chance to not only ruin your career, but your family and your life. Yeah, if Kavanaugh defends himself in any way, it'll be, see, he's attacking a victim. See how he is? He should have been polite. And there's already articles out there about this, that no matter if he's innocent or not, he should treat this woman with respect and understand that her pain is real, which I'll try to link that article below as well. This is absolute madness. Like, he has every right to defend himself. Again, I'm not saying he comes out and starts screaming at her and calls her names, but he should have the right to voraciously defend himself. And the Republicans have the right to question her motives and her background. That doesn't mean they're bad people for doing so. Why is it that only the left they're allowed to smear Kavanaugh with any accusation whatsoever, but he's not allowed to defend himself? And mark my words, this will be the story. If she does eventually testify, how dare the Republicans, how dare they go after this victim? Because in their mind, they've already made up their mind. She's a victim. Everything she said's true. Kavanaugh's guilty. Facts be damned. It won't matter. None of that will matter. And this is also hypocritical when you look at the Democrats, because meanwhile, the deputy chair of the DNC, a gentleman by the name of Keith Ellison, he has been accused by two women, one of which who claims to have 911 tapes, medical records showing injuries that she suffered at the hand of Ellison. She has several witnesses that say that she contemporaneously told this story of the abuse to them. She has all sorts of things like that corroborating. And she just put a statement today saying she feels like she's being smeared and ignored by the Democrats. She came out before Kavanaugh's accuser yet. They're mum on the subject. They don't want to talk about that. They're not demanding Ellison step down from his position as deputy DNC chair while it's sorted out. They're not saying that he should have to suspend his campaign for Attorney General of Minnesota until this woman's given a fair hearing. It's all one-sided. And it just, to politicize sexual assault and violence like this on any side is terrible. But the Democrats are especially egregious because they're the party that claims this moral high ground that somehow they're the protectors of women and we have to believe all victims. Yet time and time again, when it's someone on their side that is accused, whether it's Juanita Broderick accusing Clinton of rape or whether it's these women accusing Keith Ellison of abuse, they seem to time and time again find reasons to ignore this. So it's just pattern after pattern of using these allegations of sexual assault as a political weapon, and it needs to stop. People should now. You'll see the media coverage because they pander. The majority of the mainstream media is going to pander to the Democrats on this, so they're going to breathlessly discuss how the FBI should investigate that, and if it has to go on for years, so be it. But Kavanaugh, maybe it's best that he just withdraw until and leave someone else step up to play. In fact, the media will say we should just wait until after the election. Now it's too late for Trump to appoint someone now, and this FBI investigation should take a long time. So this is what the media will be saying. The same media that's silent on the women that are the accusers of Ellison. My stance has always been innocent until proven guilty. And I've been consistent with this with people on the right and the left. I felt that way with Al Franken, for example. I felt he was entitled to a fair hearing. I didn't think it was fair that he got drummed out based on a picture and things like that. To me, it was ridiculous. So for all people, I think we should treat the people with respect that are saying that they were allegedly victims, but I think that the alleged perpetrator should also be innocent until proven guilty. And I just think this whole system of, do what you can, and we've seen this with I've done other videos on these confirmation hearings. It's been a joke from the get-go. I mean, the Democrats were basically strategizing and teaming up to have people come in and make off the street and make fools of themselves and make a mockery of the whole system, getting arrested and things of that nature. It's been a circus the whole time. Cory Booker's up claiming that he's Spartacus and he's releasing documents that he's going to break the rules, but it's so important and these documents need to go out to show how bad Kavanaugh is, and he's willing to risk his seat as a senator to do it. And then you see the documents, and it's nothing. Time after time, they've thrown hit piece after hit piece after hit piece after Kavanaugh, and when none of it worked, finally we find the big Hail Mary pass. Just bring someone out from 30 years ago that says that he sexually assaulted her, and say she's not going to testify in front of the Senate until the FBI does this huge, lengthy investigation. That's their best chance to get this pushed off. And no matter what they're going to accuse, the Republicans that say, look, we've had enough of this, are going to be terrible people that don't care about the rights of women that have been sexually assaulted, and Kavanaugh's just this terrible man. That's what we're looking forward to. That's what our system's going to be like in the future. It's going to just be more and more of that. The Republicans, there's already Republicans that are starting to do this. They're trying to dig up dirt, which I find ridiculous as well. But that it's effective. Why wouldn't they do it? Every party's going to do this. This will be the lesson now. It doesn't matter if the accusation's true or not. What's the downside to the accuser if they make up the claims? It's almost impossible to prove that they're willingly lying, so there's no downside whatsoever. They get treated as a hero from their side, and perhaps this woman doesn't want the attention. Maybe she doesn't. She claims that she's getting death threats and things like that. That would be a downside. If people are giving her death threats, that's absurd. But it seems like everyone's always getting death threats that comes out on one side or of another. So, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but, I mean, there's literally no downside for the Democrats in this. There would be no downside for anyone to just come out and have their party to dig up an accuser for the other side's appointee or candidate at the last hour. So I just think that cooler heads need to prevail. If you're out there, even if you hate Trump, even if you hate Kavanaugh, right, and you think he'd be terrible in the Supreme Court, you have to realize how this is setting such a horrible precedent, and how it's not only smearing someone that could potentially be innocent in the name of politics, and not only is it setting up a precedent that this is what our political system's going to become, but it is also belittling real victims of sexual abuse who now have to have their stories be used as mere pandering for political points. So I think this whole situation's terrible, and we should all focus on what's to come and realize that the media spin and the Democratic spin that's going to come from this is complete and utter garbage.